Hi, it's Tim Hagen from Progress Coaching, and I want to give you my insight for 2025. Normally during the end of the year, between about November 15th to about December 30th, I can relax, I can take a little bit of a break. And that didn't really happen this year. And one of the reasons is there's so many things that are in a state of flux. And I read a magazine called Choice Magazine, which is for coaches, really coaching practitioners. It's not really what we do, yet there's some really strong parallels. Great magazine, by the way. And I think about 2025, coaching changes are coming. Let me tell you why. I just saw an AI tool that blew me away that will make life so much easier to develop leaders into coaches. And then it hits me, AI is here to stay, but it's not designed to replace people. And so it's designed to assist versus replace. And so when I think about 2025 and I think about all the changes that are coming our way from AI, new systems, new employees. And I think about the fundamental numbers that I constantly repeat. 71%, according to Gallup, are neutral or actively disengaged in the workplace. Only 29% are positively engaged. That is really hard on leaders. Number two, 85% significantly lack self-awareness, according to a study done by expert Tasha Eurich in her book, Insights, which is a New York Times bestseller. So now 7.1 are neutral or negative, 8.5 don't even know how to look in the mirror. That is really hard on leaders. So AI can assist them. There's no getting around that. But I think there's also something that's coming. I think the way we coach is going to change. I go back to my own relationship with my own coach, Philip. We started to do it on Slack. Now, we have since started to use another software tool to do this, but it's that asynchronous coaching. It's every day we have a collaboration going back and forth. And I'm doing this with some clients now. We are estimating it's saving about 30 to 40% of the time. So I have one client who's at Microsoft, and she and I collaborate in one of our tools. It's an asynchronous coaching relationship. And she said, I feel like I get so much out of this versus waiting for our next scheduled session. So there can also be a hybrid between let's meet once a month versus once every 2 weeks or once a week to I'm going to put stuff into my online journal. I want you to react to it. And so what do? I ask questions. Well, what did you do? What did you do differently? What did you learn about yourself? And she types it in. And I then will respond. There's another company out there called the Journal Engine. They have a great software tool that does that as well. The woman who teaches it does a great job of teaching something called journal-based coaching, which we've been teaching for a long time, but she teaches it differently. And I dare say she teaches it better. And so when I think about cadence coaching, how do we create a greater cadence of coaching outside of our calendar? When I say this to leaders, they go, is that possible? Because their calendar's filled. Now, I am the staunchest supporter of scheduling time with your people. See, I think if you don't schedule time with your people, you're going to go into a very reactive state. You're going to see what's wrong. You're going to fix what's wrong. See, we're trained to fix things, to see that what's wrong and go into corrective action mode. That's called feedback. That's not called coaching. Now, the other thing that I think is going to become more and more prevalent, because I see people writing on it, we actually have a book in production called Coachability. And when I think about coachability, I think about a person's ability to be led, to be mentored, to be provided feedback where they smile and say thank you, whether agreement or disagreement. What individual contributors and leaders, what we don't understand is when I fold my arms and okay, and I'm writing an article right now called the nodding syndrome. Oh, okay. And when we nod, the person giving the feedback is under the impression we agree with them. No, we're nodding off. We can't wait for you to shut up so we can just get the heck out of your office because your feedback is so inaccurate. But they don't say that. They say it to 3 people when they leave the office, who tell 4 people. Now 12 people heard about the boss and their incorrect feedback. And I heard he got him in a headlock. And it's like, what? That's not what happened. And as an outsider, I witness these things every day. Now, I'm blessed with some great clients. Don't get me wrong. I'm blessed with some really good coaches inside our clients. But the workplace itself, we need greater coaching ability. We need people to look in the mirror and say, I need to get feedback. So one of our infamous exercises is to have people eat feedback. It's a methodology we teach. And we had a gentleman actually log his answer, and he said, at first I didn't want to do this. I thought it was dumb. But I went and one of the assignments is get feedback from a family member. And what we asked for, what are 2 things I do well, and what's that one area I would improve? And someone brought something up that had been eating them for 10 years. And the guy puts into his journal, he said, I never knew that this family member harbored these feelings. He said, I was stunned. I thought we were past it because we tell ourselves our own story. Remember, 85% lack self-awareness. So coachability is about the ability to seek and ask for feedback, to ask for mentoring, to grow ourselves, to self-coach. Because what people have to understand, if I roll my eyes and I fold my arms, I don't want to give you feedback again because my relationship with your reaction is so cringy and so uncomfortable. Why would I want to give you feedback again? Then what happens is if I don't give you feedback as a leader at the end of the year review, I don't have your trust because I haven't spent time with you. So remember, cadence coaching, which is something we teach, and we have a software tool that can help you that allows you to have this asynchronous relationship. It doesn't always have to be scheduled, and you can create a hybrid. Coachability is about teaching employees the value of cultivating their self-awareness, how to grow their motivation, how to create milestones for their own career development. And what that does is it stimulates the brain. It gets people thinking more positively, which makes it what? Much easier for leaders to coach them. Now, I would also share with you what's coming is crafting coaching solutions. I'm in a project right now with a sales organization, and the leaders are so busy. They're traveling, and they are. And for years, I've ignored, for lack of a better description, I've kind of ignored that excuse or objection. But the fact of the matter is, it's real. And I said, why don't we craft a peer-to-peer coaching network? And they're all looking at me like, what are you talking about? I said, well, there's a lot of things that go into it. It's not just pairing the top performer with the low performer, but it's about creating a schedule of teaching and practice and feedback. But we have to structure the feedback because most people don't give feedback very well, especially salespeople. What do we typically do? It was pretty good. But what I would do is, and we bring it back to us, that's about self-loathing. That's not about me being a great coach. So we actually structure and teach them how to give feedback that inspires and motivates. And what we're finding is that in the trenches, the best practice sharing, the peer-to-peer practicing, the peer-to-peer teaching, people are stepping forward, even the ones who aren't hitting their numbers. And they're saying, this is great. I'm learning a ton from my peers, because that's where the secret sauce is sometimes in performance. It's peer-based. See, a leader correctly will say, I need this performance from you. I'm going to coach you. And that's good. But they can accelerate it by facilitating a peer-to-peer coaching network. We wrote a whole white paper on it. Reach out to me if you're interested. Now, the other thing that I would tell you is conversational skills will become huge. The way we talk to people will become more vital. I think the pandemic served us very well. While it was dreadful, it served us very well. It got people talking about empathy and mental health and all those good things, right? And I think about that from a standpoint of, we had to be very proactive to check in with people. Are you doing okay? And that's a good thing. Yet when somebody comes to your leaders at your company and says, is AI going to replace my job? You as a leader are on. There's no hiding. Excuse the crass language. You are naked on the ledge and they shut the window behind you. Because that employee is basically saying, I'm insecure, I'm very concerned, I'm terrified, that affects my family and financial being. That's where they're coming from typically. And if somebody goes, don't worry about it, and 2 months later, there's a layoff, that leader's trust has been blown out of the water. It puts us in precarious positions. What we say matters. How we say it matters. One of the things that I see all the time in my work, positively and not so positively, is when people bring up comments to other people. And when they say things, it has an impact. See, I am convinced, which I didn't put into some of the captions here, and I should have, is we have this thing called emotional intelligence. See, I think there's something before emotional intelligence, and that's emotional interpretation. If somebody comes to me and says, oh my gosh, Tim, it's the middle of winter, that green shirt looks awful on you. Do I smile and say, that's great insight? I look like crap. No, I feel defensive. I get angry. And what happens is, and we teach something called RIAR, R-I-A-R. We react, we interpret, we articulate, we reflect. We rarely get to the fourth point or the second R, reflection. So when someone says, Tim, you look terrible in that green shirt, and I go to Lisa and say, Bob said I look terrible. He attacked me. He called me overweight. By the way, Bob never said that. So when we react and we're emotional, we lose objectivity and rational thought. And when we articulate, we tell other people to get it off our chest. We don't get towards reflection. We lock that door. What you have to do is reverse the R's. So when someone says, Tim, you look terrible in that green shirt, and I reflect on it and say, okay, well, let me think about that. And I come back a week later and say, Bob, why did you bring up my green shirt? Well, it just doesn't look good with the lighting. I love the shirt. But we judge and assume and label in seconds. It's so interesting that people do that. I'll give you another funny one. The other day, I was at a local grocery store at 6 a.m. They open at 6 a.m. I got there 10 minutes early, and my car was parked. There's only like 3 cars in the parking lot. Obviously, there's weird people there at 6 a.m., which I'm one of. And all of a sudden, this guy gets out of his car. He parked his car right in front of mine, and he gets out and he starts swearing at me. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. And he starts swearing at me with, expletives and turn your lights off. What are you trying to blind me? Now think about this just rationally. And I got ticked because I went up and confronted him. And I thought later, wait a minute, I'm not practicing what I preach. We are emotional creatures. So I went up to him and I said, why did you park in front of my car if my lights were on? My head was down. I was reading an email. I wasn't trying to blind you. Well, it seems like you're trying to blind me. Does anyone really think I pulled into a parking lot at 10 to 6 in the morning in the pursuit of someone I don't know, in the pursuit of hopefully blinding them with my bright car lights? We are emotional creatures. And so the way we speak really matters. How we coach people matters. I'll give you a great example. Call people into the office for the good stuff. I've said it for 30 years. Put a note on their desk. Send an email to them praising them, and then copy your boss. As long as it's authentic and true, truthworthy, that you're not just making stuff up, but you're acknowledging people's strengths. Gallup reports, when we lead with people's strengths, they will engage with us 8 times more. 8 times, not 5, not 4, not 3, 8. So that can turn things in our favor. Now, when you do things like that, what does that do? It goes back to cadence. You can send that in a message. You breed greater coachability when you do that. You get more willing participants in crafting some of the custom coaching solutions. And you can do that through conversational skills. See, I rarely ever use the word, well, I want to give you constructive feedback. I'll use words like insight, opportunities to raise your game. Now, someone might say, well, you're soft pedaling it. Well, maybe initially. See, my whole goal when I coach is to help people feel good about getting better. See, people change in 3 directions: effort, progress, and results. What we tend to do is forget effort, we forget progress, and we go right to results and say, you're not hitting your numbers. You're not handling that angry customer well. You're not being, and we always tend to lead off with what people aren't doing. So the whole goal of coaching is to help people feel good about getting better. Now, the last thing I want to share with you that I think is going to become even bigger is we're going to have this collaboration of AI, human-based coaching, maybe asynchronous coaching, peer-to-peer coaching, communities, group coaching, self-coaching. See, I think we're going to start to hear more and more niche initiatives and methodologies as it relates to coaching. So is it working? What needs to improve? So we recently embarked on doing coaching audits. You don't have to buy our stuff, but we come in, we'll look at a leader's team and say, here's what's working, here's what's not working, here are the suggestions. We can also do a coaching audit of an individual employee. We can also do it of an entire organization, which we're doing for a number of companies now. An audit is a very healthy thing to do, and it has a little bit of an accounting feel to it. But I go back to one of the most fundamental questions that we ask people. And I want you to write this down if this intrigues you. Fundamental coaching questions. Do you know your employee's motivator? So we teach a methodology called QALMS. It's our stuff. It's our coaching framework. QALMS. M is motivator. Where do they want to go? Many people don't know. So when I ask leaders, do you know the motivator of your employee, of what they want to do next? And it could be within the job, means they're intrinsic, or it could be a promotion. It doesn't always mean leadership or a promotion into leadership. Again, I love Julie Winkle Giulioni's book, Promotions Are So Yesterday. She identifies 8 areas outside of the promotion that people are motivated by. Now, here's the really scary thing. McKinsey in Q4 2022, and the numbers have actually gone up with other studies that shows that 42% of people are actively looking for jobs due to a lack of career coaching and development. If you don't know the motivator of your people, you're at risk. What we then do is, if you don't know what motivates me, you're going to solely coach me to do the job that you've hired me to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is, over time, what happens? I'm kind of losing my edge. I'm losing my excitement. I feel a little complacent. I need a change, maybe, or maybe an addition to my job. Who knows what it is? A coaching audit. It's amazing to me that leaders don't know where their employees want to go. Now, that is not a criticism at our leadership community. The fact of the matter is, leaders need to know where their people want to go. Now, here's the tough part. I go back to conversational skills. When you sit down with someone and say, what's the next step in your career? Well, I don't know. Okay. What do you love about your current job? What do you like about your current job? What do you dislike about your current job? What would you love to be doing? What would you like to be doing? What's something you'd like to avoid in your next initiative? If you had to describe 2 things you want to provide in addition to what you're currently doing that you think would raise your energy and excitement level, what's the first 2 things that came to your mind? I just gave you 8 questions of what we teach in our career-based coaching. And here's the other thing we do that's cool. We have an AI tool that literally interviews people that we built, that leads to an assessment that routes the answers back to the boss, and we give them a coaching interpretation guide. If they answered this way, and this way, here's how you coach them. And once you know someone's motivator, you have inside information that can leverage what you need from them now to help them get what they need later. The employee dramatically changes. So we have to have conversational skills. So let me do a quick review. 2025, you're going to see a lot of change. AI is here to stay. We're looking at a number of tools. We're building out about 12 of our own AI tools now. I believe asynchronous coaching is going to become huge. We're going to be launching a software application this year that allows organizations to do this with our content, by the way. I believe that when you can have a collaboration of 5 or 6 minutes, and I'll share another one with you. We use a really cool tool that allows us to react to people, whether it be text, audio, or video. And I had a guy put into one of his requests and he couldn't find something. It wasn't the purpose of the tool. So I got it literally last night on a Saturday night. I immediately responded to him. He goes, "Oh my gosh, I didn't mean to, I thought you were going to get back to me Monday." I said, "No, that's okay." And I have a mobile app. I wanted to get back to him right away. That's a cadence of interaction. We don't have to schedule time to go over where to find things. I sent him a link. Coachability. This is not going to be the sexy title. This is not going to be the sexy, oh God, I can't wait for all of our people to get coachable. People aren't going to do that. That doesn't, but it's needed. If you have an audience, think about being on a stage. And if 7 out of 10 people are like this, would you want to stay on that stage? The leaders are on a stage. Now, what if 70% of the people are leaning forward and smiling? And they were coachable and they were seeking and they were reacting positively. From an inspirational standpoint, guess what would happen? Leaders will feel more comfortable leading. We're going to have to get creative. If you need help, let us know. We craft coaching solutions all the time outside of just traditional training. Conversational skills. I'm going to say it. It's not sexy. It's not fun. Most people don't do it. The people who don't do it to come up with reasons why they don't do it, I'll just share with you very boldly. They're full of crap. Practice. If you're not practicing, you're not getting better. When sales teams say to me, "Well, I've got a pretty good team," I said, "Great. Then you just committed. Every person's going to hit their numbers, right?" And guess what happens when salespeople don't practice? Well, the economy was bad. It's the same parallel with leadership and coaching. If you don't know how to have these conversations, it's not about perfection. You've limited your opportunity to engage and drive that talent. And if you're not driving that talent, and we have a book coming out, Coach Them or Leave Them, they'll leave you in 2 seconds if you're not coaching them. And when you're not scheduling time because you don't have time, guess what's going to happen? They'll find time to go find a new job. And the time that you said you didn't have, guess what? Now you're using the time you don't have to go interview replacements. And last, reach out to us. We're happy to help you. We do coaching audits of teams, of individuals, and of entire organizations, finding out what's working, what's not working. And we do a deep dive. It's a pretty pretty cool thing. And then we craft out a coaching solution saying, this in the marketing department, they need to do this. In the accounting department, they need to do this. Cross departmentally, here's some things that you need to do. And I know that's very high level, but make sure you're doing a coaching audit, because some of that audit should encompass are people leveraging AI? Are people leveraging practice sessions? Are people really becoming more coachable? How often are you seeking feedback on your own accord? Those are some of the things that we ask for that give people a really good report of what's going on inside their company. So with that being said, if you have any questions, send me an email. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can certainly put it in here if you're on the LinkedIn version of this, but feel free to reach out to us. We would love to chat with you. We would love to know how we can go about helping you. But I think that 2025, coaching changes are coming. They're happening right now. The traditional coaching model is probably going to not get broken or replaced, but it's going to be adjusted. Thanks, everybody. Have a great year.